Hello, hello, you beautiful people and college basketball fans around the globe and around the country. We are back with not, I guess it's another AP poll reaction. It's the first real AP poll reaction. We did the preseason poll a couple weeks ago, but this is the first in-season poll we got in the college basketball season. It just got released. This is my first time seeing it also. That's how we're going to do these streams. I want to give you guys my raw reactions and everything that I'm seeing based on what's happened last week. Now, we didn't have a ton of crazy games last week. There were a few big profile games that I'll kind of get into a little bit, but I'll kind of give you my reactions as we go. Reminder: I see you guys in the chat. Roll Tide, go Green, go Gators, go Sparty. Keep the comments coming, keep the questions coming. I'll go through all the teams and kind of my reactions and thoughts, but I will get to your questions and concerns, maybe, and comments in general. So keep that rolling. We got Houston at number one. This is already interesting to me. Purdue started the season at number one, and now they swap with Houston after both of them playing bad teams for the most part and taking care of business. Now, Purdue was tied with Oakland at halftime. They ended up pulling away in that game with Braden Smith, almost had a damn near triple double in that one. I'm not like super surprised to see the switch. I have Houston at one. I had them at the beginning of the season, but to me, if you voted Purdue number one in the beginning of the season, you shouldn't take them out of number one based on that Oakland game alone. Now, I did look at the AP poll specific points. Houston had 1,462 points on the voting. Purdue had 1,459, and Purdue had double the amount of first place votes that Houston had. Purdue had 36, Houston had 18, and then there were a few scattered for UConn, Duke, and Michigan, oddly enough. But the Houston Purdue first place votes, Purdue has double the amount Houston, which is very interesting here to think about. But nonetheless, Houston and Purdue, number one and number two, not surprising. That's where they deserve to be. We had Florida was at three. Let's get into the Florida Arizona game a little bit. I think it's worth talking about right now. Florida goes down to 10, Arizona goes up to 5. It's hard to argue either of those spots. Like I said, this game, the Arizona Florida game, and then the Carolina Kansas, Michigan State Arkansas game, St. John's Bama game. Like those were the only real big games between top 25 teams in any capacity that are worth noting here. And this game was huge. The first day of the season, yeah, Koa Pete looked like an absolute monster out there. Like he looked like people were comparing him to Paolo Banchero. I saw Kawhi Leonard a little bit. He was awesome. He looked absolutely unbelievable. Arizona shot like 5 threes all game. I don't even know. I think they hit like one or two, or Kochenkov hit a couple. Jaden Bradley looked fantastic. Arizona reminded me a lot of the 2022 Arizona team that was a one seed in that what's called in that year with Benedict Mathurin and the with Azuolas Tubelis. Florida down to 10. I think that's a good spot for them. It's not the end of the world for Florida. They need to adjust their system and their guard play for sure, and they will over time. Todd Golden's a fantastic coach. I'm fine with Arizona at 5 and Florida at 10 because like I said, the rest of the top 10 aren't playing against real teams yet. Alabama did obviously, but the other teams, BYU, Michigan, Kentucky, Duke, UConn, Purdue, Houston haven't played anyone real. So you go off of what you've seen, and what you've seen is that Arizona looks like the best team in the country realistically. You could argue that point, but obviously after week 2 we'll have more takeaways on that. The other teams, I don't have much to say a lot on UConn, Duke, etc. I will talk about Alabama for sure. Alabama beating St. John's in the Garden. I was in the building for that. It was like a takeover for Alabama. Like it was crazy. The Alabama team in the past couple of years, going into the year, they're at number 8 now in this poll. I thought that they were going to be what's the word I will say? I thought that they were going to be a little more reserved without Mark Sears, and like the balance of the backcourt was going to be a little bit more of a concern in their style. But the balance of the backcourt, Aiden Holloway looked amazing. LeBaron Philon is a pro guard, as pro as you want to get. It almost helps them. Latrell Wrights, I'll give them 17. Houston Millett looked good. Jaleel Bethea hasn't even played yet. Like, I think that's a huge piece of it that helps them almost. Mark Sears is one of the best players in Alabama history, like in a single season. He holds a million records, but they are like their team looked great. The front court looked much better than I thought it would. Taylor Bull Bowen looked awesome. I like what I see with Alabama for sure. We'll see if it sticks and they can be as good as they have been in the past few years. Making sure I get to your guys' comments. Let's see what we got here. Duke overrated. Like I said, Duke overrated at number 4. Like you could think that. They did not look great against Texas, but they handled that game more than fine. They played terribly offensively outside of Isaiah Evans, but they ended up being fine and winning that game by double digits. Texas isn't the worst team in the world. They're not the best team in the world, but wouldn't be too worried about Duke being at 4. I think it's justified. I think I have them at number 3 because it's one of those things that do they deserve to move down? No, but Florida does, so they get to go up a spot or two. Whatever. I think they started at 5 in the preseason poll. I see UNC is so overrated. I don't. UNC is a tricky one. UNC is a really, really tricky one because they like. I see soccer fan. UNC overrated. I don't like the jump. Again, not many teams are playing big games, but they are. I like Kansas. I think Kansas deserves to be a top 25 team still. I'm fine with that. And I like Carolina. I love what I saw. Caleb Wilson, if we had to choose like players of the week, Koa Pete is up there, but Caleb Wilson to me, a little bit more surprising, especially doing the dirty work, the hustle, the passion he has for playing for Carolina and everything in between. Like he looked absolutely unbelievable, Caleb Wilson. He 23 point, I think he had 22 points or 24 points in that game. He had like 4 steals, 4 assists too. He had like 8 boards in that game. He's been unbelievable. He's barely missing shots and he's doing everything that you want. My brother, actually, I was talking to him yesterday. He compared him to Tyler Hansbrough in terms of like the energy, the passion that he's playing with for Carolina Blue. Like you would think he's been there for years. Coach Hubert Davis said that his aura alone got the stadium to do a whiteout. They've never done a whiteout in over a decade. And Caleb Wilson was like, I want to do a whiteout on Twitter. The stadium was like, sure, why not? And they had an amazing whiteout hosting Kansas in that game. Huge win for Carolina. Don't know where they go without Seth Trimble. That's going to be a huge problem for them for sure. And I am a little worried because they're not deep already. And they're not deep with defenders, especially in the backcourt. So that'll definitely be an interesting one. They say Seth Trimble getting surgery this week, should be out hopefully 6 to 8 weeks, might be a little more depending on how the surgery goes. So TBD on that one. But I think Carolina at 18 is super fair because Kansas was, I think they were at 19 or give or take to start the season. So hypothetically, right, or theoretically, sorry, you beat the 19th team, best team in the country, and you're 25, like 18, 19 is probably the right spot. So I think that's fair based on the rankings here. Kansas, again, I don't hate. You see the other teams on the screen also receiving votes. NC State, very, very close to Kansas. San Diego State. Indiana, I love Indiana. Let me stop there real fast. Indiana is probably going to be in the top 25 either next week or the week after that, whenever they have their next schedule of really good games to play, because they manhandled Marquette. Like they looked absolutely unbelievable. I got to find who they play next week. Let's see. They're 21th on KenPom right now. They have easy games coming up. Kansas State on the 25th. Minnesota, Louisville on December 6th is the big one, realistically. So Indiana is going to be undefeated probably until December 6th when they play Louisville at a neutral site. I think it's in Indianapolis. But Indiana looked absolutely unbelievable. They manhandled Marquette. 100 points, first time that a Shaka Smart team, who's an always defensive team, has allowed 100 points in a regulation game ever in his D1 tenure so far in over a decade. Love Indiana. I think they'll be in there soon. Oregon, Vanderbilt, Ohio State, Baylor, who looked much better defensively than I expected last night versus Washington. USC, Kansas State, and Missouri. Some of the other teams in here this week that'll be interesting to watch. Texas Tech is a team that I've talked about a lot. They're playing at Illinois. So that's 11 at 14 this week on Tuesday night, tomorrow night, which will be absolutely unbelievable. Making sure I get to some more of your comments here. Wisconsin, no movement. Yeah, it's a tough one. They were at 24 last week, so like they didn't really play anyone great. They haven't looked like astoundingly good or bad. They're good. They definitely deserve to be where they are. Who should they go up above is my question for you, right? Like Arkansas, to me, I think Arkansas still deserves to be in that spot. I think Wisconsin is better than Auburn personally, but Auburn being ahead of them in the poll, they had that one close to slip up against Bethune-Cookman, but they won their games. Like they get knocked down 2 spots, Auburn from 20 to 22. Wisconsin going up doesn't really make sense to me until they beat someone good and valuable to me. Arkansas, a team that I still like. I like the freshmen. I think they look good for the most part. Like talent-wise, they're one of the best teams in the country. They're big, they're physical. They are going to be a better defensive team than Cal's teams in the past few years, but Arkansas is still a team that I think deserves to be in the top 25. They just got to pick up the discipline a little bit. Getting some more thoughts on Bryce James usage. Bryce James is not going to be playing for Arizona, I don't think, basically all year outside of spot minutes when they're up by 90 in some of the bad games. But that's not as much a testament to just him That's also a testament to about their how good their team is, right? But you see Arkansas on the screen. They beat Southern. They lost to Michigan State. They have a couple of easy games coming up, and then they'll have some harder games in some I forget what tournament they're going to, but they're playing one of the tournaments, I think. Again, Arkansas is a team with a really high upside this year, in my opinion. They're one of the most talented teams in the country. They just need to lock up defensively. They need to lock in terms of not turning the ball over, not making silly mistakes, because their freshmen were making freshman mistakes, and their upperclassmen were making freshman mistakes, which is the real part that I was actually worried about. Vasquez says SDSU not worthy yet. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when the preseason poll came out. San Diego State not being in the preseason poll was a miss. The fact that they weren't in the preseason poll means they're going to have to do something drastic to get into the AP poll top 25. They go to Players Era in, I guess, 2 weeks, right? They're going to play. Who do they play? I think they play not Alabama. Let's go find out who they play. They play a couple of good teams there. Everyone's really good, realistically good in Players Era. They're going to play Oregon and Michigan. That's who it is. They play Michigan and Oregon back to back. Michigan first. I mean, you win those two games, you're going to be in the top 25. You'll be in the top 15 to 20 for sure. The Michigan game will be interesting. Could they crack into the top 25, San Diego State, without beating Michigan and beating Oregon? Maybe. Like, they're still getting a respectable amount of votes. They're 27th in the AP poll. They're really not that far off in terms of points wise. NC State is an interesting one. They haven't played great teams so far, but they look absolutely fantastic. Analytics support them being great. They play Greensboro this week, and then that's it. But then they have VCU and then Seton Hall and Auburn after that. I think if they beat VCU handily, VCU is a good squad, a good mid-major A10 squad, then NC State will be in the top 25. To me, NC State's a top 25 team, so I'm not surprised that they didn't crack into it, but they probably should. Young Stunner says, why did UCLA drop? I am confused. They dropped, I think, because they were making room for Alabama jumping up because Alabama was behind them. So, and I don't think Arizona was, or they might have been just, I'm not sure exactly where they were. I'm going to go pull it up actually real fast because I think that's important to know about Arizona. UCLA was ahead of Arizona. UCLA was at 12. Arizona was at 13. Dropping 3 spots is interesting, though, because that means that Illinois also jumped them, which doesn't make sense to me because Illinois and UCLA both didn't play anybody. So why is Illinois jumping up from 17 to 14 and UCLA going down from 12 to 15? Again, it's an aggregated poll. You kind of take everything from a bunch of different voters, but I don't think UCLA deserved to drop. I think that they probably should have stuck where they were or like dropped to 13 or 14 maybe, but being below Illinois doesn't make sense to me. That being said, they both have great games this week. UCLA plays Arizona this week, I believe. And Illinois plays Texas Tech on Tuesday at home, which will be 2 of the better games of the week. Aussie Boy says that BYU needs more love. AJ ain't the only good player they have. Absolutely. I think AJ getting all the hype overshadows the depth and balance they have. Rob Wright is awesome, one of the best point guards in the country. Richie Saunders. Keba Keita looks like a goddamn monster down there. I love the group that they have for BYU, especially offensively. They look defensively very, very good versus Villanova. Not the greatest team, but still they look good defensively. BYU at 7, I think is fine though. To preseason poll, they were at 8. So they're one of those teams that they haven't played anyone great. They look good versus Villanova. Florida was ahead of them. They dropped down. So BYU plays well. They don't deserve to go down. So they move up a spot. So I think BYU at 7 is fair. They're going to play UConn this week in Boston, which is basically a UConn home game at TD Garden. Going to be an absolutely awesome game. I love that they're going across the country to play that in UConn territory. I mean, if they win that game, we're going to have some dangerous conversations about BYU next week. But I'm all in on the BYU hype train. I do like them very much. Klein says that Michigan State is better than you thought. Michigan State's solid. Like, their 3-point shooting is awful. They were like 0 of 8 from 3 to start that game. They still find a way to win that game. That's the Michigan State way. They're in the Breslin Center, so they get a bump there. They had better coaching. They had better discipline, better schematics, more organization in the players. Like, Michigan State is solid. I just don't see the upside with them. They don't have a Jace to kind of give them that offensive ceiling to be as good as they were last year. Doesn't mean they're not good. Like, people think I hate Michigan State. I definitely don't, because how can you hate a team that continuously wins and is consistently much better than they are on paper talent-wise? Michigan State's great. They had a grinded out win. That's kind of how what they specialize in. So shout out to Michigan State for that one. I'm hitting some of your other comments. Let's see what you got here. Torian says Arizona isn't better than Houston. I agree, they're not better than Houston. That's why the poll ranks them as 1 and 5. Unless I'm missing a conversation that we have in there. Chance Sherman says that St. John's drops to 13 after losing to Bama. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. They don't have a natural point guard. They were terrible defending pick and roll, which I think was really alarming, more than alarming than anything, because last year they were so good at it with Kadari Richmond, and their defense was so good, St. John's. If their defense isn't going to be top level in the country, they're going to struggle because they can't shoot the ball. They don't shoot the ball. Their guards aren't natural playmakers. So there are ways that St. John's could struggle a lot this year. That being said, 13 I think is fair because they'll still manhandle a lot of teams, and they still will. Like UConn, they play twice this year. They'll probably split with UConn still and win at home or vice versa. I think 13 is a fair spot for St. John's. Greg Gumbel, the GOAT, did Louisville deserve to drop? I don't think Louisville dropped that much. They were 11 last week. Now they're down to 12. Again, that's the voters just saying we saw a lot out of Arizona and Alabama, so we want to put them up. So if Louisville has to drop one spot or two, that's fine. It's the same for Texas Tech. We talked about that with UCLA before. That's kind of just the nature of some of the teams shifting around and not playing great games yet. And it kind of just is what it is. Super Saiyan says that Arkansas will be in the Elite Eight again, if not the Final Four this year. Bet on it. Like, I'm okay with that take. I'm okay with that because their upside is great. Give them time to gel. Give the freshmen time to adjust and get comfortable. Playing in the Breslin Center is not easy. It's their second game in their college careers between Darius and Malik. Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas, that is, two of the best freshmen in the country, and I love them. I'm fine with that. Like, they could figure it out. Defense will and discipline will be, and like turnovers will be their downfall in March. They won't win a national title, but could they go to a Final Four, Elite Eight? Absolutely. I'm definitely okay with that take. Slight dumbfounded. Did Kansas deserve to still be in the top 25? Yeah, I talked about that before. I'm okay with them still being in the top 25. They didn't look terrible versus Carolina. It's not an easy game, an easy place to play. Carolina came looking great in the second half. Darren Peterson's awesome. They have to find a way, Kansas, to play either more through Darren Peterson, or they have to find a way to get more out of the other guys. Melvin Council was 1 from 6 from the field, I think, in that game last week, and I think he needs more. Jaden Dawson needs to shoot the ball better. El Marco needs to be a little more active, and Cole Rosario didn't do much in that game. Like, they got all these guards and playmakers, go and make a play. The front court didn't look great defensively either. I love Flory Badunga, but defensively he was lacking. Paul Mbia, I don't think, is someone that's going to give them enough minutes and be consistent enough at all in his short stint of minutes that he played. Didn't look great. So the front court defensively is definitely concerning, but I'm okay with them being at 25. They were 19 to start the year. They lose to a team who was also in the top 25. Like that, theoretically, they're okay to take their spot and go to 25. Now, that being said, Kansas does play against NC State soon. December 13th, not so soon. It's a month away. It's not that far. But Kansas has a tough schedule. They're going to play Duke on November 18th. They're going to play Syracuse on the 25th and Notre Dame on the 24th, both of those out in Vegas. Missouri on the 7th. They play UConn on December 2nd, all before NC State on December 13th. So you're going to learn a lot about Kansas and if they're the real deal or not in the next couple of weeks. So I think it's fine to leave them in the top 25 and then kind of see where that goes. C. White, 1977. Tennessee is better than 20. Yeah, I agree. Again, they're a team that they were 18th to start in the preseason poll. They didn't play anybody to make them look great to go up. So should they have stayed at 18 and Gonzaga jumped them? Gonzaga also looked great versus Oklahoma, so I think Gonzaga kind of maybe, like, I'm okay with that. Carolina beat Kansas. They jumped Tennessee. Like, that's just the nature of you not playing great teams in the first week of the season, and that's fine. Like, it's okay to drop to 20. It's okay to drop a couple of spots for a team like Tennessee because they haven't played anyone in their schedule yet. Tennessee is playing against no one great until Vegas. Vegas, they play Rutgers on Monday the 24th, Houston on Tuesday the 25th, and then Syracuse, Illinois, Louisville. So their schedule gets a lot tougher. Their first 5 games are super, super easy, and then they play Rutgers. You could argue their first 6 games are super, super easy, but the first 5 they're going to clean through for absolute certainty. And Tennessee might not go up that much. Like if they're going to be 5-0 playing against bad teams, they might be at 18 or 19, but they will slowly move up And then when they play those big games, if they win those games, they'll move up a lot, and people will buy into that they are the real deal for sure. Layla says, I know Iowa State didn't rise, but man, they can score. Iowa State look good. They look great offensively, and if they can be great offensively, that unleashes my entire take on Iowa State in their ceiling. They were 16 to start the year. They're staying at 16 now. I'm wearing the Iowa State shirt. I didn't even realize actually just now. Milan Momcilovic, Taman Lipsey, Nate Heisey. Like if they can score the ball well, obviously Josh Jefferson. I can't forget the go to versatility at the forward spot. But I like Iowa State. They haven't played anyone great. I think that they are going to be out in Vegas also, if I'm not mistaken. They are. They're playing St. John's and Creighton. They play Miss State tonight also. Mississippi State, Josh Hubbard. It's a good squad. They're playing in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a neutral site that should be beneficial to them over Mississippi State, obviously. If they look good tonight and win handily, they could move up a little bit next week if other teams above them lose. But then again, Vegas feast week, St. John's, Creighton on Monday the 24th and Tuesday the 25th, and then they get Purdue and Iowa after that. So give it a couple weeks, similar to what I said about Tennessee. Give it a couple weeks for Iowa State to kind of prove themselves like they usually do, like both those teams usually do, to kind of go up in the rankings a little bit. And if they go up in the rankings and win those games. L. Turner won. Oh, man. Dude. How do you feel about Neoclis Avdalis and Virginia Tech? That is my dog right there, and that is my squad. I absolutely love Neo, the Greek god of college basketball. They call him Yido Luka Doncic, Yido Doncic, like a Greek Euro, if you get what I'm saying there. Gyro, unbelievable player, lottery pick, All American, All ACC first team. I was on him before the season. I was all on him. I'm even if I could be more on him, I'd be on him now. Virginia Tech didn't receive a single vote in the top 25, which I'm not super surprised on. Like they beat Providence in overtime, which was a great game, and I think Providence is underrated. And I think Virginia Tech is underrated. Neo is awesome. He's one of the best players in the country. He's good at everything. He can shoot, he can create, he can play make, he can rebound, he can defend. One of the best players in the country. Stamp. Bet. Virginia Tech is good. Amani Hansberry, Jaden Shute played very well down the stretch. Like Virginia Tech is a solid team. The more they beat another good team, they'll get love and they'll start getting some votes. They haven't gotten anything so far. Virginia Tech is far down there, 67th on KenPom right now after being 2-0. They play St. Joe's, Charlotte, Bryant, Colorado State, South Carolina, George Mason. They don't play anybody until Virginia on New Year's Eve. So honestly, wouldn't be surprised if they go undefeated, Virginia Tech. What game should they lose? Like Colorado State at the neutral site is a really good game. South Carolina could be a tough one. George Mason looks decent, but there's a chance they could go undefeated all the way to New Year's Eve when they play Virginia and maybe even into the new year, which would be pretty damn incredible if they did that. And I believe that they can. I think they're that good. JT Martinez, Texas Tech will be top 8 after next week. Yeah, I mean, they're playing Illinois tomorrow night. If they beat Illinois, they're going to be, to me, I have them at number 4 for the record. I think Texas Tech is unbelievable. I think they're one of the best teams in the country. Christian Anderson, JT Toppin, both looked unbelievable. If they beat Illinois, they'll for sure be that high. Dill Jason 79, who you got Bama versus Purdue this week? Dude, this is going to be, both teams are all offensive teams. I think that Bama winning at St. John's makes me almost feel like maybe this will be a Purdue game, but it'll be one of the best games of the entire non-conference slate. Both teams can light it up. Man, part of me is thinking that Alabama is going to win this game because Purdue's going to play into their style a little bit because Purdue's not the best defensive team, and Purdue's bigs are not healthy. TKR hasn't played yet, and also they don't defend athletic bigs well. Taylor Bowen is the definition of that, right? Like they between him, and Sherelle, like I think they're big and athletic enough to give Purdue's front court issues, and they have so many guards that are going to be so hard for Purdue to defend. This is one of the best games that you can imagine in a non-conference slate. They match up together. They match up so well together. Cardiac Kemba, UConn or BYU this week? If I had to make a pick, I'd say UConn playing in Boston, being the more experienced team and with continuity. I love BYU. Can they win this game? Absolutely. Their defense looked very good against Villanova. UConn's a different beast. So we'll kind of see what we get, the real deal out of BYU this week, or if we don't get the real deal out of them either. I saw some other stuff on BYU in the comments. I think BYU should be ahead of Arizona, Michigan, Purdue, and Houston. Yeah, like UConn, we're going to learn a lot about them. I'm fine with BYU being at 7 and UConn being at 3. We are going to learn a ton about them this week in that game. I believe UConn is as good as we're making them out to be right now. That being said, we'll kind of see how it goes this week. BYU or UConn also gets Arizona at home next week on Wednesday, which is fantastic. Then they get Illinois on Friday the 28th. They get Florida and Kansas on the week of the 2nd and the 9th. Like UConn's schedule is loaded, so we'll know for sure pretty early on after their next three games if UConn's going to be the real deal or not. If we want them, like we all want them to be. I'll get ahead to a couple more comments before we call it here. My last general takes on like the top 25. I don't think anyone is like wildly underranked or overranked. I think there's a chance Kentucky could blow the doors off of Louisville, and people are going to be like, "Oh my, that is a problem," and then skyrocket Kentucky up the rankings. I don't think it's out of Louisville's hands. They're home in the Yum Center. Louisville's guards are great. I think Kentucky's front court is going to be a problem, and their defense looks a lot better than it has in the last few years, especially last season. So I think Kentucky. I like Kentucky in that game. If they win that game handily, they're going to skyrocket up the rankings. Does Miami have any good non-conference ranked games? I think they play Florida, and that's about it. I don't think Miami has a great schedule. They have Florida on Sunday the 16th, so that'll count towards the AP poll next week, and then they get BYU and Ole Miss. So not awful actually for Miami. So if they can make some noise, that's kind of where they're going to have to make noise for sure. Baylor's a top 25 team for sure. Baylor beat Washington last night. Their defense looks great. They got a brand new defensive coordinator, Ron Sanchez, coming in, who runs the pack line defense from the Virginia coaching staff with Tony Bennett. They need a defense. They look a lot better. I think Baylor only got 14 votes. They're ranked, what was that? 7, 28, 29, 30, 32nd in the AP poll. It's fine. They're getting their votes. They're in the hunt. They're on the radar. I think that's all you need to worry about. And then last one, what are your thoughts on Oklahoma State? They're fun. And they got bucket scorers. They manhandled Texas A&M, and they held them defensively, which I think says a lot. Buckyball takes time to adjust. It will take time to adjust on the power level, and they have good players. It's a big win for Oklahoma State. I'd keep my eyes on them. Oklahoma State's definitely an interesting team. I don't know exactly who they play the next few games. They have really easy games. They have South Florida, who's a good team, and then like Northwestern and GCU and Oklahoma. So Oklahoma State could make some noise and go undefeated for a while. They might lose one of their next three, but Oklahoma State could definitely make some noise. Anthony Roy and that squad is definitely a team to look out for. But that's going to cut it for our AP poll reaction today. Every single Monday when the AP poll drops at 1 Eastern time, I am on here on the Bleacher Report platforms on YouTube. So shout out to BR for putting this together. We are going to do this every single week for a half hour the entire season until we turn our view to the March bracketology look. But that will be months away. So AP poll today. Next week will be a really fun one because we're going to have a lot of big games this week. Today, we didn't have a ton. But again, thank you all for being here. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the activity and engagement. Enjoy the games this week. We got a ton of loaded games, as I will be enjoying also starting today and tomorrow for sure. So enjoy the games. Enjoy the week. Peace.